So we'll be covering a bit of introduction, and then by introduction, we'll be speaking of sirar, and what is sirar if you have never heard of it before, and how sirar and Zscaler are doing a great partnership together, and then secure digital transformation, of course, and how you can effectively have security measures in place. And of course, the most interesting part is the ZTA and how you can adapt it. And hopefully, you'll be having some time for Q&A. All right. So, sirar by STC. Sirar, maybe some of you heard of it, some of you not. We've been there in a while. We participated in great events such as Leap earlier this year, and we had at Hack as well, late 2021. Some of you maybe have saw us on our booths. We of course have a statement as a and a vision, of course. So our vision statement is basically the trust platform for the data economy. That's how we go. And we do have a couple of strategic agendas as well. Most importantly, we do attract one of the top tier talent pools in Middle East and Africa as a whole. So if by any chance any of you of the audience here are young and interested and you can see yourself as a top talent, maybe you can join us soon. Hopefully, that'll be great for us. And we're, of course, the leading, or we're looking forward to be the leading cybersecurity, managed cybersecurity services in the region as well. And we are a trusted partner for a lot of government sectors, private sectors, SMEs. We're basically serving all entities from different sizes, and not only different sizes, but also from different domains. As you can see, we're not only stuck in the IT and telecom domain. We do manufacturing, we do retail, aerospace and defense, healthcare. Of course, that's a very hot topic nowadays. And we do have a series of value propositions. Basically, client understanding, that's one of the most aspects that we really care. Quality of service, customer experience, and definitely comes with a superior offerings. I just want to quickly move through Sirar introduction here. You can know more about it by visiting our website or our social media platforms so that we can jump to the main topic today, all right? Our service lines, we do have three main service lines, advisory, PS, professional services, and then managed security services, breaking them down. And they all go starting from the cybersecurity governance all the way up to cyber defense. We take you through the entire journey through all the cybersecurity domains. All right. And then, of course, by managing professional services, we do a lot of services here as well. Maybe some of you know, maybe some of you don't. The main ones or the great ones that we have, they're pretty much all great, to be honest. DDoS is a great one. Email security, web security, which we'll be speaking today. We do pen testing, gap assessment, sign. That's a marketing term for our electronic signature or the PKI. It's a really great service as well. Maybe you can give it a look. And of course, we do have the managed SOC and the threat intel and the managed devices and the forensics. Basically, we're covering the entire cybersecurity umbrella, which hopefully will basically we're covering the major parts of cybersecurity. Speaking of our team, we're great. I'm proud to have a great team. As I said earlier in our slide, that we attract a great talent pool throughout the Middle East and Africa region. So we do have a great team, certified, experienced. Those are some of the certifications that we do have, as you can see on the left-hand side of the screen. And we do have great partners as well. Those are some, but not all of them, such as Cisco, F5, Zscaler, which are our guests and partners today in this webinar, Fortinet, Palo Alto, Qualys, and so many more. Those are just some of few. Well, about our services, we do provide two types of services. It's either we do a hybrid format. We either go serve you on-prem, or you can take the service remotely. And of course, we're based in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, so we do have a local SOC complying with all the regulations. And we're proud to say that we're also an authorized third-party auditor to one of the biggest oil and gas companies, Saudi Aramco. All right. Now we're done with the marketing and quick introduction to Sirar. I'll come to the great topic that we're here for. That why is Zscaler with Sirar, right? Now, again, as I told you, Zscaler is a vendor. My colleague Rob, just the next slide here, will give you a more introduction about Zscaler and what they exactly do. So the question is, if I was in your shoes, I'll be asking, why should I go to via sirar to get Zscaler services, why don't I jump to the Zscaler as a vendor directly? Well, here are some points that I would like to clarify. First, we do have the highest level of partnership with Zscaler. It's called Zenith. It's nothing for you to worry about. It's just a term that Zscaler use on their partnership agreements. And by the high level of partnership means that you can have great discounts. That you can, those type of those type of partnership. You don't get them as long as you satisfy certain points. Yeah, and one of them is to have a great team, certified team, and that's one of the core aspects as well. And there are much more agreements. But once we do have that level of partnership, we do have a lot of flexibility which we can help you on. We do have the greatest or the biggest or the largest local cloud node in Saudi Arabia. Now, I know the word cloud sometimes it's a bit scary for some of you, especially when it comes to security, regulations, data sovereignty, and so on and so forth. But the good news is that we do have Zscaler in Saudi Arabia, hosted in our data centers, which means that we are complying with the local regulations, whatever it is, either it's NCA or SAMA or they and all the other regulations. Yeah, so this is something for you not to really worry about. Now, I know that I sound like I do have my sales hat on, trying to give you all the benefits and why you should go with Sirar via Zscaler. But my main objective of this webinar is not that you go and send us an email tomorrow and say, wow, we have a great webinar and I would like to subscribe to the service. My main objective of this webinar is to give you some sort of awareness on why do you need Zscaler, or to be a bit more transparent, not Zscaler, but why do you need zero trust architecture in general? It's either Zscaler or else, it's either sirar or else. Yeah. The point is that we want to give you some sort of awareness that how the digital transformation have been moving so quickly, and how the traditional architecture that you used to have might not cope or catch up with what's going on nowadays. Yeah. Before we proceed to Zscaler as well, I want to let you know we can assess with you together. We can have one-to-one sessions to further clarify what we'll be explaining in this webinar. And most importantly is we would like to know that how this technology will actually benefit and add value to your organization. If that's so, perfect, you can go ahead with it. If not, I personally don't want you to get a service that you will not be utilizing. Yeah. And finally, we do have a stat here which says that we protect clients from more than 27 million threats per month, and that's only in Saudi Arabia, 27 million threats per month, right? That's pretty much a big number. So as of now, I'd like to pass to my friend and colleague, Rob. I believe Rob is here. Rob, do you hear me, please?
Yeah, thanks, Mohammed. I can hear you loud and clear.
All right.
Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear as well. All right. Okay, you can get to the next slide. I hope you can do that.
Yep, there we go. I can take control. Perfect.
Okay, great. Go ahead.
Well, firstly, thanks, Mohammed, for passing over, and it's great to be on this call. So just as a way of an introduction, myself, Rob Standing, I'm the Regional Director for the Middle East, Turkey and African market, based out of Dubai. And I have a couple of colleagues on the line as well. With us, we have Wazam, who's also my counterpart as one of our regional directors, as well as George Kayed, who is our alliance director. So firstly, it's great to be on this call with Sirar and to be able to talk a bit more about Zscaler in the Saudi Arabian region. So just to give you a bit of an overview of who we are before I go on to what we actually do. Because I appreciate there's probably a few people on the call that have never come across the name Zscaler before, and that's okay. We are still building out our presence in this region, but hopefully, it'll become quite comfortable to know that you're not alone in potentially looking at our technology. So we've been operating as an organization for the last 12 years, 6 of those within the Middle East and African market. And throughout that time, it's been predominantly with partners such as Sirar, our leading partner in the kingdom, as of which myself and Wazam and George have come on in the last 18 months as direct vendor presence to help support this region. And it was a comfort for us as well to know that we already have over 190 customers utilizing our service in this region, which equates to around 1.2, 1.3 million users on Zscaler every single week within the MEA region. And Zscaler as a whole, so the name Zscaler actually comes from zenith of scalability. We pride ourselves on being able to consume a huge amount of traffic and to be able to support as many people as possible across the world. So we have 150 data centers or points of presence located around the globe, 9 of which sit within the Middle East and African region today, which you can see across the bottom of the screen. And all of these points of presence are consuming over 200 billion daily requests every 24 hours. And the reason why that's such an important and vast number, and just so everyone's aware, is that is 10 times the amount of Google searches the whole world, the whole population does every single day. So it's a huge number. And the reason why that's so important is with all of these transactions flowing through Zscaler, we're able to continuously update and improve our platform. So whether you're in Riyadh, whether you're in Jeddah, whether you're in Tokyo or California or London, everyone gets the same benefit of this cloud service where we are updating the platform over 220,000 times a day with the latest and greatest security updates to make sure everyone that is utilizing our service is the most protected. And that is why we are continuously, and have been now for 10 years, the outright leader in the Gartner Magic Quadrant for the secure web gateway space. Now, it was only just a couple of months ago where Gartner actually released the new SASE quadrant, which is Secure Access Service Edge. And that takes into consideration things, as Mohammed's already mentioned, such as internet access, private access, DLP, and CASB solutions, which are all things that we offer today, which is why we are also the outright leader in that SASE Magic Quadrant and are the highest in the ability to execute. So we ensure that that customers can get value in 3 key areas. 1, get a faster user experience for all of their critical applications or wherever the destination may be for their users. 2, be able to improve the security posture. At the end of the day, we are a security tool. So how can we improve that for people? And 3, how can we reduce the cost? So from a complexity and an on-prem and I suppose an on-asset perspective, how can we improve those costs? So to give you a bit of an understanding of where the market is shifting, we're typically, I call it the 3 legs of the stool, right? That we're typically having conversations with the network team, the security team, and the application teams. And you can even throw in there as well the architecture teams as well, because the common areas that we're trying to help the C-level suites and these teams is improve end user performance regardless of where those users are, and how do we mitigate risk from businesses' current state as well as their future state, whether they're in, they're growing their business or going through any mergers and acquisitions and so forth. And the reason why we're having these conversations is, if I just take you back to the pre-cloud world, right? So what is the original problem that we're looking to solve? And a number of you on the call may be on this journey. You may already be moved away from this, but just to give you an understanding that, in order to have any interaction with the outside world, right, i.e. the internet, because it used to be that the epicenter of people's network was the data center, because that's where every application lived. Now, to order to have any interaction with the internet, there had to be a whole host of appliances in place to have traffic flowing in and out and an interaction. And this was known as the castle and moat security approach. But what we were typically finding was there was three main challenges, right, with that architecture, now that the new world is coming into effect. So number 1 was productivity loss. So for example, the more cloud services that businesses continue to adopt. So let's take Office 365 as the perfect example. Many businesses are taking on the Office 365 suite, whether it's Teams or SharePoint or OneDrive. And if all of these users and their traffic is now still backhauling to the data center, just go out to the internet, then it's a bit like someone flying from Riyadh to New York, but going via Singapore, right? You wouldn't do it because it's a longer traffic path, it's more costly, and it's more time consuming, right? And it doesn't give the user a good experience. So why would we do that with our traffic path to the applications? The second thing that we were hearing was this increased business risk, right? Where we've got users now all over the place from a remote working or a hybrid model or in a coffee shop perspective, and every single endpoint is a potential attack surface, right? Every firewall is a potential attack surface. And this now falls into Mohammed's point around zero trust and ZTNA, which is the buzzword in the market. Because if any of those endpoints or any of those individual users are compromised, that attacker then has the ability to move laterally east and west across the network. So it's effectively like giving someone a hall pass to your building, but they can walk anywhere with no restricted access. Okay, and then the final piece is the cost and complexity. So with the old hub and spoke network approach, as your traffic increases and your cyber threats increase, you're going to have to continue to upgrade the infrastructure and throw money and hardware at the problem in order to keep up to date with today's threats. And now, as we know, the world is changing, right? So how are we able to now help with everything? Well, everyone is embracing SaaS applications. We talked about Office 365 and others such as Salesforce and ServiceNow and so forth. Everyone is looking to embrace public clouds, and I know that there's a number of potential public clouds now becoming available, or at least soon, in the kingdom. And everyone is going through this mobility and remote working and hybrid model. So this hub and spoke network approach simply is going to become obsolete. So how can we move away from that? Now it starts with three areas of security transformation. So firstly, it's about how do you prevent your own users becoming compromised, right? From attacks from the internet coming in. The second phase is the zero trust network architecture. So how do we prevent the lateral movement across your network? And then the third point is outbound, right? So how do we prevent any data loss from your users out to the internet? So everyone on this call and people that we're engaging with currently and the conversations that sirar are having in the kingdom, businesses are now at a crossroads, right? There's a couple of options that they can go down, or a couple of paths. So at the moment, we've already talked about the majority of organizations are on an on-prem security appliance setup today. So option one is they can go for another vendor in this space, right? There's a lot of vendors in this market that are offering a cloud platform, but it's effectively a next-gen firewall in a public cloud. Now, the reason why that is less effective is because you are reliant on the availability and reliability of that public cloud. It's typically also an open door, an entry door to where the data is actually residing, potentially outside of the kingdom. And as you can see, it's a longer traffic path and attack surface. So it still has very similar traits to that of an on-prem setup. Or option two, or behind door number two, is Zscaler. So our pure cloud security platform that sits within the kingdom. We have unmatched protection for locations around the world, with the majority of those sitting in the same internet exchanges as Microsoft, to offer the fastest peering speeds and most of the time 10x the peering speeds of our competitors. So we're able to give the fastest and most direct access for the user to their destination to improve their experience. And we have a pure zero trust and zero attack surface, because you can't attack or you can't see. We give the least amount of privileged access for that user. And so that brings me on to, our zero trust architecture, right? Whether you're an individual at home, in the coffee shop, or in the office, wherever your destination is, whether it's the internet or SaaS applications or public cloud, or even your data center applications, you will pass through the Zscaler Zero Trust Exchange. So think of us like the security gate at the airport. Regardless of where you're flying to around the world, you need to go through security in order to get to your destination. And at that security gate, we're going to start understanding who are you, what is your role, where are you based, how secure is your endpoint, as well as your individual laptop, and where do you have access to and what content are you allowed to have access to? Because in this way, it mitigates any risk for the organization, and it improves the agility of your user as well to get to that destination in the shortest possible traffic path. Now, before I pass it back over to Mohammed to talk in a bit more depth around our internet access and our private access solutions, just to cover off our Zero Trust Exchange of how does it differ to that of the old castle and moat security approach, right? So firstly, our Zero Trust Exchange has zero network access. So as I mentioned before, we will not allow users onto the network. They will only have access to the applications. So you can't attack what you can't see. And that is to the second point where we will not publish applications on the internet. Right? And finally, we have a zero pass-through of connection. So it starts to really bring down and mitigate any potential risks. So I'll just pause there for a second if there's any questions. Otherwise, I'll pass it over back to Mohammed, who will jump into our internet access, our private access, and also our digital experience offerings. Mohammed, over to you.
Yep. All right. Thank you, Rob. Thank you very much. All right. Now, just adding to what Rob exactly said, for the Zero Trust Exchange, or the ZTE, regarding the 3 points that Rob mentioned, especially the zero pass-through connection. Now, in the traditional way, you can easily change routes. Maybe you can bypass some security controls, but when it's in the cloud, and when the applications, when you cannot get the connectivity unless it's inspected using Zero Trust Exchange, that will increase your security posture. All right. Now, in Zscaler, we do have a couple of products or platforms, let me say, which is the ZIA, the ZPA, and then we have something really amazing, which I personally love, the Zero Trust Digital Experience, the ZDE. All right. Now, speaking of the ZIA, brief and simple, I want to confuse you here. It's just a secure way to go to the internet, as a whole. All right, wherever you're going to. All right. So, and by that, we do have a couple of use cases, of course. Now, at Zscaler, they have 150 data centers spread around the world. So you don't really have to worry about latency. And those 150 data centers are not in a special continent, but they're all over the world, in different sides of the world, east, west. So the latency will not, you won't find issues with the bandwidth. And of course, there's an SSL inspection on it. And DLP, of course. DLP used to be a separate security module, but in Zscaler it is somehow built in. So there are DLP of users. For those who are not really familiar with the term, DLP is data loss prevention or data leakage prevention, which is very sensitive, especially to critical entities and government entities as well, financials, so on and so forth. Yeah, and with having Zscaler or subscribing to Zscaler service to have a secure internet access, you won't need all the traditional technologies that we used to have, such as the firewall, antivirus, the DLP that I just mentioned, and those are just few. We all know how complex our networks are today. And adding to that as well, the funny thing is, you won't really think or need to think about not only buying those products, but remember, and you already know, and we all felt the pain, that those products comes with licenses, which cost crazy, comes with administrations, comes with operations. We need someone to manage it, comes with hardware maintenance, and comes with a lot of things. Comes with a capable team that needs to operate it, a huge team to operate it as well, and with the crazy turnover, and everyone is feeling the pain. So imagine, and not only that, but you'll find yourself you're in an endless loop. Every day you'll come up with a new technology, and you'll find yourself that you need to buy a new hardware. You need to find yourself that you need to buy a new subscription or expand your license, and so on and so forth. But pretty much zero trust is designed to cope in today's world that we are in, especially what happened after COVID and the whole transition that happened, and everyone is going to the SaaS applications, as Rob mentioned. So I see it as a very critical and important tool to be in place, or at least to consider in the near future. Okay, now speaking of ZPA, zero private access. Now the ZIA, we said that it just so that you can securely connect to the internet. But when it comes to the zero private access, there are some applications which are meant to be accessed only by employees or partners or contractors, so on and so forth, but it's not available to the public. Now, on the old days, what we used to do is that we publish that service online, yeah, to everyone. Now, as long as that is published online to everybody, there's a high level, we're adding to it, or we're exposing it to a high level of cyber threat. But in this case, it's invisible. And as Rob said, you cannot attack what you cannot see, right? So by having a ZPA, or zero private access, I'm privately allowing certain people based on their usernames to access those applications and not to publish them on the wide, or on the internet, which everyone can see. Yeah. So let me give you an example of ZPA. For example, you need to access your ERP, maybe that could be a private application, your travel and expense, TNE, maybe you need to access some sort of a specific server or database that do a certain job, and you don't want it to be accessed by everyone. Remember, if there's a firewall, there's always a chance that it be attacked. If there's a firewall and anyone can see it, there's always a chance to be attacked. But if it's in the cloud and in a private way, and no one actually knows what's there behind, that will definitely lower the chances of being attacked. All right. Now, there are some use cases here. Now, basically, it's the main use case which I see is replacing the VPN. All right. Now, in the past, that if you need to connect to a certain application, corporate, and you need to get to the corporate network, you usually need to get to a VPN connection, and that have its challenges as well. Yeah. Sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes you need to contact IT. Sometimes a user gets expired. It's a mess. Yeah. So basically, we are replacing the VPN, and you can have direct access to the applications as long as a user is verified. And as you can see here as well, it's built. The whole solution is built on zero trust architecture. And what is zero trust in brief as well is that you never trust anything inside the network. By anything, I mean a user or an application. Now, I know a user sounds maybe a little bit not really ethical if I'm referring to employees, because we do trust them. But by user, I mean the digital user identity, not the user himself, as that user can be hacked for some reason. There could be an insider using that specific user. So by user, I mean the digital user and the application, of course. And we need to not to trust any of that. And by, in brief, it's like you have to segment everything and verify every single step during the entire connection, to prevent known attacks such as lateral movement, for example. All right. So that's pretty much ZPA in brief. Now, ZDE, the Zscaler digital experience, is where I really find it impressive, enjoyable, especially for people who are working on operations. Now, as you can see here on the screen, it's pretty much a dashboard, right? A dashboard which shows, let me give you a scenario. As you can see here, there is a question says, when your CEO calls with an Office 365 performance issue from Jeddah, where do you start? Okay. Now we all know if there's a major issue, especially if it's escalated all the way to executives or CEO, or if it's impacting some sort of critical business, the entire operation team go crazy, right? And you don't know where to start from troubleshooting, especially if your office is in Riyadh, for example, and the problem is in Jeddah. So you need to figure it out. It might take time. But in this dashboard, if you zoom a little bit on it, if you can see, there is a user device events, all right, and there is a trace route path as well inside that dashboard. Exactly, it tells you where the packet have been interrupted or if there's a packet drop as well. As you can see here, it says packet loss between the Wi-Fi and the router. So it pretty much helps you to figure out where is the issue exactly. And that's on the user device level, but it also works on the application level. The ZDE pretty much scan all your environment, and if it found something which is unnormal or it's not really appropriate, it gives you some sort of an alert as well. As you can see here, it says the Box app is slow. It's functioning, but it's slow. So you as an admin, it's giving you, like, in brief, you can figure out the problem before anyone complains and solve it seamlessly without the end user feeling, which is a dream came true. Yeah, we don't want to get bothered by end users, escalations, unnecessary tickets, impacting business, so on. So that's what the ZDE does. And it also, let me say you have a couple of branches, right? You have a branch in Jeddah, Riyadh, maybe worldwide as well, outside of Saudi. It tells you where is the problem based on the geographical location. As you can see here as well, it says, for example, financial district office issues. It's triggering some sort of connectivity issues on the financial district, all right? And it also gives an overall ranking of the user experience scale or score. Is it high? Is it low? If it's low, that means the user experience is not really good. So we need to figure out why. If it's high, everything seems perfect. All right. So that's pretty much what the ZDE, it gives you a complete visibility. And to be honest, I've never saw something like that before in my professional life. So that's great. Thanks, of course, to the cloud and the ease of technology nowadays. Um, but it had made it possible. Yeah, it solved a huge problem. So um, I don't know what to say more. I just love it. Yeah. And then, of course, speaking of Zscaler, given it that it's a leading vendor and what it actually does and how it helps in terms of connection, the question comes, did it have to be connected and integrated with third-party applications, right? And it does. In terms of the Zero Trust Exchange, the ZTE here, it have open APIs, so it can basically integrate with a lot of vendors, not only those which are mentioned on the screen, from all sort of domains. That's cloud providers, data centers, security operations, endpoint, and so on. And you can see all the major vendors here on the screen, such as Azure, AWS, SAP, VMware, Cisco, Splunk, ArcSight, IBM, and so on. All right. Okay. Now this is a thing that we maybe mentioned, but worth mentioning again, that we do have 150 data centers or ZTE or Zero Trust Exchanges worldwide. Zscaler processes 200 billion requests per day, 200 billion per day, all right? And more than 7 billion security incidents and policy violations, again, per day. Guys, those are billions, yeah? We are, all right. And there is more than 200,000 unique security updates per day. Now, what I mean by unique security updates, it could be a 0 day, it could be some sort of, it's basically 0 days where a Zscaler on the background try to fix it, or there's some sort of vulnerabilities in some sort of way, and that how it keeps always you up to date, which is definitely keep you always not to there's nothing called you're not secured. I mean, there's no 100% secured, but it plays a big role when you have a unique security updates that you don't need to worry about, and that's 200,000 unique security updates again per day. And as you can see the map, Zscaler data centers are distributed worldwide. And of course, if you just, looked at it a little bit, you'll find Saudi Arabia somewhere here in the middle. Yep, there it is. Okay, and that's pretty much the map of Zscaler. Now, I'm happy to say that we're pretty much done with the introduction of Zscaler and what it does and how it can benefit you. And for now, I would love to take some questions if any of you have some. And as I always say, there's no such thing as a stupid question, just ask, please, especially that it's a new topic, it's a new technology, it's a new architecture such as ZTA. So for those, even if you want to ask about terminologies, please feel free to do so. So I'm happy to take questions right now. All right, I can see a question here from Wa'il Ghanim. Maybe our moderator can unmute him, or Wa'il, if you can, if you're able to put your question in the chat, please, that'll be great. Okay, well, let me try to unmute you. Here we go. All right, well, all right, I saw your question. Okay. Let me go to the chat. For ZTE, do we need an agent to be installed in the end user device? Yes, yes, you do. You do need a agent to be installed. And to be honest, there are two ways. There's a way that you can install an agent, and there's a way that you maybe don't need to install an agent. It depends on your environment, but yes, there's an option to install an agent. All right, I can see you have another one. Yep, Rob.
I think just to add to that as well. So thanks for the question. So yes, it's a very lightweight agent, but also we have something called the client connector, and that is the same client connector for using the internet access, the private access, and the ZDX. So I can see Ibrahim's just said the ZCC. Correct.
All right, well, I hope that answered your question. And thank you, Ibrahim, as well. Do we have any further questions, please? And by the way, if any of you do have further questions, by next slide, I will share with you our contacts where you can, email us or catch us on our social media, either it's on Twitter or LinkedIn, where you can put your questions if you don't have or remembered some questions later. And most importantly, if you need to know more about the product, if you need to understand if this will actually help your environment, does it fit your environment? Is it a requirement you think that you need, but you don't know how to pursue? Maybe you need some sort of clarification, someone who can help you to assess the product, what features you exactly need, some sort of customized packaging that you might need. You might not need all the features, but you need a little bit of them. And how can we actually help you to do that? So we'll be more than happy to receive your requests. We can definitely set one-to-one meetings very soon in the future, and we'll just be waiting for your requests. Okay. I'll just give it one more minute if we do have some questions, else I'll jump to the next slide for you to have our contact details, and maybe we can end this webinar. All right, questions, guys. You do have one more minute. All right. Now, I'd appreciate if some of you can just scan that code here using your phone, right? Where you'll be redirected to a link which shows our website on our social media details as well. We can definitely contact us there. We can know more about you. You can get to know more about Zscaler, get to know more about sirar as well, not only about our web security services, but as I briefly covered, the other services that we have, any of the services that you may be interested on, we can also support you and help you on that. All right. I'll give you a couple of seconds as well for some of you who want to screenshot this or take or scan it using their phone, and then we can definitely end this. All right, meantime, Rob, do you want to add something before we wrap up?
No, not much more to add to that, Mohammed. I suppose just firstly, thanks to sirar for the opportunity for us to actually present. And we're now that I suppose COVID is slowly dying down, and travel is getting closer and back to normal with no more PCR tests required. My team and I are continually in Daman, Riyadh, and Jeddah now on a weekly basis. So hopefully, we can team up more with the sirar team and come and meet with you all as and when you require. So yeah, if there's any questions, obviously my details will be shared after this webinar. And if you obviously would like to have a follow-up session with any of our team, then we'd be happy to do so and can do so in person.
All right, great. Okay, so with that being said, I believe we're done. Thank you everyone again for joining and taking the opportunity. Hopefully it was a informative webinar for you to pretty much know what's going on and where the market is shifting and what is zero trust in general and a Zscaler role in that domain. So thank you very much again for joining and wish you all have a great day ahead. Thank you.